Hi, this is Neil Bellon, and this is a video of several demonstrating my teaching style as a chess coach and instructor. And the theme of this particular video segment, is chess psychology, which is very important. And unfortunately, there are many players whose theoretical knowledge of chess is good, but they never really progress because they don't have the correct mental outlook and psychological approach to the game. And if you're going to be successful in tournament chess, it's very important, and it is something that I believe chess coaches need to work on with their students. And one of the most important things that you do as a chess coach is to look at your students' tournament games and analyze them, and to really get into what they were thinking, not just in terms of their knowledge of chess theory, but just in terms of their feelings and their sort of what they were feeling at the time. Was there a time pressure issue? Were they nervous? Things of that nature. Because if these psychological things can be cleaned up, it'll really help the student progress. And the bottom line is the student must believe that he or she can win the game. You have to have confidence, and especially when playing a higher rated player. Now, in the interest of time, let's get right to the game. At the time this game was played, I was a class player. I think at the time I might have been low 1600s, maybe even a little bit lower. Let me just check. I think I was 1640 something. But at any rate, this was against international master Bonin. He's a really kind of a chess institution in New York. He's one of the most active tournament players in the country, and he's a titled player. And this was, a legitimate, rated tournament game. This wasn't a simul or anything. And I was white. Let's get right to the game. I opened with d4, and then Jay played e6. Little offbeat. Most to d4, most people would either play d5 or like knight f6. But I've noticed when Jay plays lower rated players, he kind of likes to mix things up just to throw you off balance a little bit. But again, the theme of this is psychology. I went into this game, I said I wasn't going to let him do that. I said I'm going to, play my toughest, and even though I'm a huge underdog, I said, if he's going to beat me, I'm going to make him sweat it out. So, and that's the attitude you have to have. So he played e6, and the reason I didn't play e4 here, going for the classic pawn center, is that he'll then go d5, and then we transpose in the French defense, and as white I didn't want to do that. So I played bishop f4, going into a London system type of structure. He then played d5, and right away, positionally, the reason I'm using this game as an example for psychology, it kind of covers some of the other aspects of chess that I talk about in my other videos. So this is kind of a culmination of everything. So right away, positionally, I'm looking at, perhaps controlling the e5 square there. Okay? So that's an idea. And then I played e3. Okay? He played bishop d6 right away. Now, I took here, which is fine, but what I could have done, which is interesting, is I could have gone back here. Okay, to bishop, played bishop g3, and then if he takes, then I take back with the h-pawn and I get an open file. But, I really didn't want to get in that kind of position against an international master. I kind of wanted to keep things, simple yet solid. That was my game plan. So I took, which is fine, and then he took back with the queen. He played queen takes d6. Jay, he's an aggressive player. He's solid. He wants to get his pieces out. But very playable here also is this. C takes d6. That's perfectly fine. And in fact, if someone plays that against you, that means positionally they kind of know what they're doing. They're not worried about the double pawns because it opens a file for a rook, and it also protects the e5 square. So that way, white can't get a piece on there. So he could have taken back that way, but he wanted to get his queen out. And then I played c3 because I didn't want to have to deal with check and then this pawn here. Even though, that's okay. I really don't have to do c3, but I was just being a little extra solid. So now I'm into like a Kali system type of pawn structure. He played knight f6, developing, and he's hitting e4. I did knight f3, pretty normal. And then he did knight b d7. So positionally, he's looking, for a possible e5 push. I'm going to be looking for an e4 push, or maybe a c4 push, but I'm not quite ready to do that just yet. I did bishop d3. Okay. Then we each castled. And then he got his push in first because he saw that, I was getting ready to do the same. He did e5. Now here, I took the pawn, but that's probably not best. What I should have done was probably go bishop e2. Because the reason is, if he then pushes here, I can just go there. And then now I'm looking into expanding here. Okay, so that was one way that could have been played. But I decided to take, we did some trades, and I was happy to do that. I didn't really want things to get too thorny here. He took queen takes e5. Now I realized here I wasn't really playing for much of an advantage, but just to kind of keep things even keel. Like I said, going back after e5, bishop e2 is probably what I should have done. It's a little stronger positionally. But anyway, I played takes, knight, just going over this again, queen, and then knight d2, developing the knight. He did c5. He's expanding, gaining space. And then knight f3, putting the queen on a better square and attacking his queen. He moved his queen back. And then here I did h3, just to prevent the bishop from developing and pinning. He then did knight e4, getting a good square for his knight. And then I did rook e1. Nice solid little move, putting the rook on the e-file against his queen. If anything opens up, if he pushes here or something, kind of like that, and indirectly attacking the knight again. He did bishop f5, typical in this kind of position. And then queen e2. He did rook a d8, rook a d1, and then he did rook d6, and I kind of figured he was going to maybe come over, look to attack. Then here I did what I thought was a very strong move, okay, hitting his center. I did c4. And then he did rook g6. And here I'm not sure if I was crazy about that move. Now, we're talking about chess psychology here. I can't say, well, he's an IM. Every move he makes is, I have to be scared. I have to watch, because then you're not going to end up doing well. You can't be intimidated. And I saw this is just, it's like a cheapie, playing for a cheap tactical shot. Obviously, he can take here because the g2 pawn is pinned, so that's a threat. So I just moved my king over. King h1. Okay? And then he took the pawn, I took the pawn. Okay, so my bishop on c4 is pretty good. It's aiming towards the king. He did rook d6. I simply traded because, he's then maybe threatening to pile up on the file. So I just traded with his queen. And then I did king g1. Protecting the f2 pawn just in case there's anything involving a sack there or something. I just, I wanted to just get my king into a slightly better square now that this nonsense was done. Okay. He did rook d8, bishop b3, queen f6, and for the rest of this game, be sure to check out the Psychology Bellon versus Bonin Part 2. And you'll see how the game ended up. Okay, so Part 2, like I said, we'll finish this game. I hope you enjoy it.